let's talk about it. We're going to be discussing season 2, episode 1 of Tyler Perry's Ruthless. Now, before we get started, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. If you are a Ruthless fan, I will be posting Ruthless videos at least 3 times a week about the show, the cast, the characters, contests, all of that. So go ahead and like the video and subscribe and share. All right, thank you. Okay, scene 1 opens up with Oliver placing Lilo's. Actually, he finished chopping him up. He wasn't done with just chopping his head off. He chopped him up into smaller pieces. It's not funny. Just talking about it is really, it's funny to me. But anyway, he chopped his body up in smaller pieces and put it in the barrel and got rid of it. Well, basically, he didn't get rid of it. You know, we'll talk more about that a little later. But he rolled it up through the compound. And that's basically, that wraps up that scene. There was no dialogue or anything. Just basically him chopping up Lilo's body and putting the remains in the barrel. And I do know that a lot of us were really hoping that Lilo was not dead. We hoped that, you know, it was just a dream, or he was, you know, fantasizing about chopping his head off, or just kind of blacked out for a minute. But Lilo is actually gone. So rest in peace, Lilo. Okay, the next scene opens with Daikon and Elder Mother. Elder Mother is in her trailer, and Daikon is at the door. He's knocking on the door and saying, "It's Daikon, let me in." And then she lets him in, and he's basically advising her to leave his men alone. And he was making reference to when Elder Mother seduced Clark and Oliver. So I guess Daikon took it upon himself to go and tease her and taunt her, and, you know, just basically warn her to leave his men alone, don't tempt his men, don't flirt with his men, you know, and this, that, and the third. So, you know, then he left. Okay, now we make our way into the bedroom with Ruth and The Highest. And it played out just as River stated. He told Ruth that once they were done, that The Highest was going to, you know, tell her to get out. He was going to start crying like a baby, or a 5-year-old, I think was his reference. But that exact thing happened. He started crying. He wanted her to leave and to get out. And then, you know, Ruth went over to comfort him. And he wanted to know, well, why are you doing this? You know, why do you care so much? And, you know, and Ruth was very convincing. She was very sincere, very convincing that, you know, she wanted to help, and that he was, you know, special, and that he had a special soul. You know, all the things that make men feel good, you know, especially when you're dealing with someone like The Highest, who has a lot of power and stuff. I mean, I think she handled that very, very well. Now, what I do want to touch base on is the next part. The next few lines was very, very telling. As some of you know, I'm a part of a Facebook group, and in that group, I run contests. And one of the contests was a game called Who Am I? And the concept is I would give background stories on all the characters, on some of the characters, and then once you read the story, you would guess who the character is, who the Ruthless character is, based on, you know, their characteristics, you know, what's happening in the scene, you know, everything. So you just kind of pull all those together and come up with the character name. And what's really funny to me is that the contest took place, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, when The Highest was the character that I did the backstory on. And now, in this very scene, it basically but it basically gave the same insight that I gave in his backstory. So what I'm talking about is, in my story, it was basically pitched that he had a disdain for women, from somewhere, and it ran really deep. So the only other connection that I could pull together for this character backstory is he had issues with his mom, right? And looking at this scene, it kind of gave me chills a little bit, because I'm a writer, so just tapping into that energy with this character, it just, I don't know, let me just move on. But anyway, he admitted to Ruth that his mom used to make him, or force him to have sex with her, and she used to tell him that he wasn't good, it's not good enough or whatever, and he believed that, beside the fact that his mom forced him onto herself. But it's just the point, it's just very sick. But anyway, it just basically gives us a lot of background into why he acts the way that he does, and why he makes the decisions that he does, why he doesn't like women in that way. So it just kind of was an eerie feeling for me, because it's the very same thing that I wrote about, but it wasn't to that extent. But it was basically had to do with his dead cat and stuff. But it was still a big, deep rooted issue with his mom that he had. But anyway, moving on. Ruth did tell him that he asked her, oh, well, was I the best you ever had? And she was like, well, no. Just kind of put it out there. No, you're not the best that I've ever had. And he was like, well, I could have you punished for that. And I'm sitting in my head, I'm like, well, punished for being honest? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you asked her a question. She said, well, you're not the best, but you were the biggest, right? So that made him smile. He was happy about that. It gives us a little bit of background on The Highest. Okay, so after Ruth leaves, we find Joan sitting there waiting to speak to The Highest. If you remember back in season 1, The Highest called for Joan to come to see him. And you guys have to forgive me. I was calling her Agnes this whole time in a couple of other videos that I did prior to this one. And I called her Agnes, but her name is Joan. So sorry. But anyway, Ruth tells the guard that The Highest is going to need a moment. He's going to need a moment after I leave before he speaks to anyone. So Joan asks for Ruth to come over so that she can talk to her. And Ruth does go over, and Joan is in her baby voice again. Oh, did you tell him? You were in there for a very, very long time. That voice. And Ruth basically told her, look, who do you think you're talking to? Do you remember who you're talking to? And just basically putting Miss Joan in check, just letting her know, look, I am an elder now, that sort of tone with her. And of course, she's feeling a certain kind of way. She just came out of the bedroom with The Highest. So, as I stated before in my last video, Ruth is changing and she's getting power hungry. So Ruth is on the way back to her trailer, and then she runs into good old River. And River wants to discuss the details of the encounter. And Ruth is like, she wants to have an open conversation. She wants in on everything. And River's like, well, as long as The Highest is happy, then I'll let you in on it. And she was like, just look at me. What do you think? Do you think he's happy or no? River basically tells her, I'm glad that I chose you. I picked the right one, that sort of thing. And Ruth is like, you didn't pick anything. I mean, she didn't say it in that exact verbiage, but you can kind of get the picture of what she said. She was like, well, you didn't choose anything, but you can go and, go ahead and think that if you want to. And, as she's walking away, he makes a statement. He says, you keep your, what, right and tight, right? So, I think at this point that Ruth is she's very used to that pimp mentality. She's used to being talked to that way, and she responds to that. She responds to it very well because she's got a lot of snapback. Every time someone gets out of pocket with her in that way, she has a comeback every single time. So the elder mother is looking for Lilo, and she runs into Oliver, of all people. And Oliver says that he hasn't seen him, and she asks Oliver, well, do you like Lilo? And he says no, and I think she posed that question because she wanted to make sure that it was okay to talk about him, in a negative light. And she goes, elder mother put something in his food, and he should be away at that the bathroom for a really long time. So that was basically that conversation. Very short and sweet. Okay, so now Agnes, I keep calling her Agnes. Joan finally gets into the presence of the Highest, and she goes to see him in his trailer. And soon after she gets in there, here comes River popping up yet again. And, the Highest is telling her, oh, you can talk in front of him. And she wants to discuss the finances and, about, Lilo, and the Highest thinks that he's still on the property. And she says, yes, he's still here. And then River wants to excuse himself because he feels that if he's not there, that he won't be accused of saying anything later. So the Highest lets him leave. And then Joan continues her financial talk with the Highest, letting him know that that there are 75 companies that are receiving money from the Raku, or from the compound. And he goes, well, already know that. And so she, is telling him, he wants to know if she can delay moving the money, because I'm sure that it's just a funnel to move money, of course, from whoever's moving it, Lilo's people, right? So he wants to know if she can delay moving it. And she says, yes, of course, but for how long? He says to, send the usual amount, and I'll let you know when to move it. Joan leaves, and then River comes back in. He tells River to let Yancey know to have the buses up and running by Friday. And he's asking, both buses? And he's like, yeah, both buses. Then he tells River to bring in the magic. Bring him the magic lines of Coke, that is. And then River grabs it, and they're all excited, and he goes, well, oh, can I do it with you? And then he was like, well, sure, as if they're about to have a beer or something. It was very weird watching this again. River wanted to see Ruth and him interacting, and the Highest was like, well, you've seen me before. And he was like, well, I've never seen you with a woman. And they were both happy about that, celebrating even the fact that he's encountered with Ruth, and they're having lines of Coke, and they're just having a good old time. So they celebrated. Then we move on to Ruth and Tally. In the last video, I was basically letting you guys know that, she was getting power hungry. She's betraying her friend, and and this is the scene that I was talking about right here. This is definitely what's going on. When Ruth gets in there, Tally asks her, well, did you go see the Highest? And Ruth lied to her, and she said, I didn't go see the Highest. I was with elder mother. Just lied to her straight to her face, even though Tally knew that she was probably lying to her. Or she felt that she was lying to her. And she was, playing really dumb. Ruth was like, well, who are you talking about? Who? And she was like, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Highest. But anyway, she got through that part. And then Tally tells her that she's going to go and see Yancey. And then Ruth tells her, you may want to wait. You may want to wait to do that. And, she's telling her, well, no, we don't need to wait because elder mother is going to be around. And, I need to go and do it now. And then Ruth asks her, well, where are you going to do it? And then she said, we're going to do it on the bus. And when of course, we all know what they're going to do. But last season, Tally wanted the keys. She wanted the keys to the bus or to the rooms or to the children. And Yancey agreed to give them to her as long as she could take care of him sexually. So apparently Tally has agreed to do it, and now it's the time for her to go and do it, and she's ready to go. But Ruth, encourages her to wait and to just, hold off on that, and that she has another plan. For some reason, Tally is holding some custard from the kitchen, and Ruth is questioning her about it. She was like, well, what is that? And she said it's custard. And then Ruth goes, well, you need to put that back. You need to put it back right away, because if they find out you have custard, we're going to get in trouble. We're going to get punished. They get punished for everything. I mean, you would think you were dealing with some kindergartners or something. I mean, everybody's going to get punished, and everybody wants to tell the highest everything. So then Ruth tells her that, to hold off on it, and that she has to go for a walk. And I guess she needs to clear her head at this point. She has a lot going on, but before she left to go on that walk, her and Tally got into a slapping match. Tally told her, that she likes power, and she knows Ruth, and that she knows that Ruth likes to sleep her way to the top and then forget about the people, that care for her or her friends, or, because back in the day, or back when they were in the streets being prostitutes, Ruth would sleep her way up into the pimp's bedroom, I guess. And then once she got there, she forgot about all of the rest of the ladies. This is basically the same pattern. As I stated before, she has, she responds to that environment, and she knows what to do. She knows how to do it, and she treats everyone as such. And her character has not changed from that. And then that's going to come in, I think, part 3 of the season openers. I'm not sure, but yeah, the characteristics and her personality is still there, and she's still carrying around some of those traits that she had when she was prostituting in the streets. So and then she slaps her. She slaps Tally for telling the truth, and then Tally slapped her back. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yes, Tally finally got some balls to slap her back, and she retaliated. She slapped her back, and then Ruth just kind of chilled out. She saw she couldn't push her around, and then she stopped hitting her. All right, and then she left, said she needed to go on a walk, and that was that. Okay, now we move on to Sarah and Andrew. Sarah has agreed to go into hiding, until all of this blows over. They're taking pictures of her bloody head as if Andrew has shot and killed her. And the sergeant is taking pictures. He's going to, publish them to the news reporters, and so that everything can be online and consistent with Andrew shooting his wife. And he basically said he's going to go back to the compound so that he can let them know that he's, taking care of what they wanted him to take care of. And Malcolm, poor Malcolm, he's so in love with Sarah. Oh my gosh, it's sickening. He basically doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay there. He wants to, take Sarah to Mac's house and, just take charge, as if he's taking care of her. And Mac is like, no, we can't do that. We have to go ahead and get her into protection right away. And, Malcolm said, oh, well, just give me a few minutes. And Mac agreed to give him a few minutes with her. And then he left. Now elder mother wants to go and speak to the highest, and Clark is outside guarding his door and lets her know that he's meditating, he can't be disturbed. And then she asks Clark, why did you lie on me? Why did you go to Daikon and tell all these lies? And basically she's saying, do you think he's going to protect you? I'll go to the highest right now and I'll let him know what's going on. And Clark was like, at this point, if that's what you want to do, you want to interrupt his meditation to tell him that, then you just go right ahead. And she's basically talking about when she seduced him in her trailer, and she didn't think anybody was going to know about it. But Clark went right to Daikon and let him know what was happening, and let him know that what Mother Elder was up to, because like I said before, they're all, everybody's everybody has their own agenda at this point, and they're just doing their own thing. And it's like, when it comes to the Raku, they'll, put on a good front, but, at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do. Then Oliver comes up, and Clark wants to know where he's been, for a long time. And then Oliver lets him know that he was, taking care of something for Daikon. And then he asks, is Andrew coming back? When is he coming back? And Oliver seemed really nervous when he's talking to Clark, and Clark picked up on it. And he's like, what's wrong? Something's wrong here. Something's a little off. Are you okay? And Oliver assures him, he's fine. He just wants to talk to Andrew. And I'm sure that he feels very comfortable talking to Andrew, because he sees Andrew as like a big brother, and that he can, let him know what's up, and that Andrew will protect him, or at least help him to do what he needs to do. Then we move on to one of the elder mothers and Joan. They're basically comfortable or satisfied with the fact that Lilo is still in the outhouse, and they make jokes about, what elder mother did, and, by putting laxatives in his food. Elder mother wants to know why Lilo takes all the money. She's just realizing that they take all the money from the compound, but they don't leave them with any money. And of course, this is why the compound is suffering so much at this point, because they're taking all the money. And then she asks Joan, she goes, well, have you ever thought about, just taking the money, or what you would do if you had all this money? And then here's Joan. Oh, that's such an evil thought. How could you think such a thing? That voice. Anyway, and then of course Joan says that she never thought about it. She's never thought about taking money, or even having that amount of money. And then Mother Elder sends her off to find Lilo, like Finding Nemo. She has to find Lilo. Okay, now we see Brian in the car with Sheriff Conley, and Brian thinks that they're going up to the compound and going to, just raid the place and, take everybody down. And this is his big moment, right? But Sheriff Conley says, no. We're going to head to the station. And Brian is like, well, why are we going to the station? We have enough evidence. We have enough information to just go in and raid the place and do what we need to do. And Sheriff Conley was like, no, we don't have any backup. And besides, I need to go to the station and let Irene know what we're doing. And Brian basically thinks he's scared. He's like, oh, you're just scared. Just say that you're scared. He's like, no, I'm not scared. We just need to take things slow and do it the right way. And so, yeah, that's basically it for that scene. Then we have Joan and River meeting back up to talk again. River is basically just popping up all over the place, right? But he lets her know that Ruth is with them, and basically that she can be trusted and she's in on it. And Joan thinks otherwise. She doesn't think so. She doesn't trust Ruth at all. And River is telling her that asking her if she has the account set up, and Joan reassures him that the accounts are set up, everything is fine. And then River says he's going to have to move the money. He's going to have to use one of the highest phones when he goes to sleep. And she says, to be careful, and he's a light sleeper, but River has it all taken care of. And River's basically ready to move all the money, to have one of his friends do it, to move it into that account that Joan has already set up. And she basically wants River to watch Ruth. Again, she doesn't trust Ruth at all. Okay, the highest tells Boy to go and get some wood for the incense, because he has a word from the Raku, and they're all going to meet up. So Boy has to go and get some wood to burn. In the meantime, Daikon comes up, and he is basically talking to the highest about being jealous of River, basically. The highest is reassuring him, you can never be replaced. Don't think that way, and jealousy does not become you. You would think that Daikon wouldn't even be really too much worried about that. But I guess he's still in love with the highest. But, you would think that once a woman entered into the picture that he would, fall back and ease up a little bit. But, he's still just as jealous as ever of River. And again, the highest is reassuring him, he can't be replaced. And then, Daikon is asking him, what does he have that I don't have? Why do you like him so much and not, what is it that he has that I don't have? And then the highest tells him, well, he likes to read books. Basically, he's intelligent and you're not, and then he goes, we like the same movies and, things like that. And then he tells Daikon, well, you like action movies and comics, and River likes the finer things, so I'm not sure if he was slick telling Daikon that he's a little on the not ghetto but normal side, and River is a little bit more high class and a little bit more studious than him. But anyway, he said, well, maybe you should spend more time with Ruth. And then, Daikon was like, oh my gosh, I'm sure that in his head, it's a rushing thought of, oh my gosh, he knows something. And then the highest goes, well, I was just joking. And Daikon was like, well, you're not laughing, so it wasn't really a joke. But anyway, Daikon wants to be his everything, his one and only. But the highest is, letting him know that, River entertains this part of me and he satisfies this part of me and you satisfy another part and it's okay. So that's where they left it. Okay, the next scene brings us to Oliver and Lacey. Oliver pulls Lacey into the shed and he was basically checking on Lacey to make sure that she was okay. And, she's not okay. She's telling him, that Lilo can, touch me whenever he wants. He can basically do whatever he wants to me. And Oliver was reassuring her, he won't be doing anything else to you or anybody else for that matter anymore. And she goes, well, no, you're wrong. And, he had to let her know that he killed him. He knocked him off. And she said, you shouldn't have done that. And, this scene right here reminds me of that scene from Get Out when the maid was going, no, 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 her. That scene reminded me of that because Lacey went into that no, 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 no mode with Oliver too. And that was interesting to me. But she said, you shouldn't have done that. And she said, these are very powerful people. And Oliver was like, I'm powerful too. And that's clear. But anyway, she said, he's the son of a senator. And then the dramatic music starts like, dun, 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 like, oh my God, you've killed the senator's son. And then she lets him know that she was raped by senators. So that was very, very disturbing. I mean, it was already disturbing, but it's even more so to know that the men who have been voted into office to protect and serve are doing this type of activity behind closed doors. So that was very interesting. And then for some reason, Oliver got really aggressive with her because I think at this point he was just about to break and spaz. He has this temper thing going with him. And that's just one of those characteristics he has to put at bay. I mean, at this point, he's let it all the way out. And, it kind of showed its ugly head with Lacey, and she didn't like it. She said, if you don't let me go, I'm going to scream. And she broke away from him, or he let her go, and then she left. And he was basically just trying to let her know, I did this for you. I did it all for you. But anyway, she left. And then we see Boy grabbing the wood that the highest requested to burn the incense at the ceremony that they're going to have to see whatever the Raku has said this time. So that was it for season 2 part 1, you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Go ahead and sound off, leave a comment, ask a question, whether you like it or not like it. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you thought about this episode. of season 1, part 1. I'll be doing part 2 and 3 later on, so stay tuned for that. I appreciate you for listening. Like, share, and subscribe, and see you tomorrow. Talk to you soon.